And our final story for this edition of the Rolling Stone takes us to Atlanta, Georgia, where the rule of men has completely superseded the rule of law, and even worse than that, the Great Purge has started. The new normal has manifested another head, and it has risen in Atlanta. So to give a little backstory, it goes back a week ago, actually, as of this recording, last Friday, when a man named Rayshard Brooks was killed by officers in the Atlanta PD. Rayshard Brooks was, this all started when a Wendy's in Atlanta called the police because they said that there was a man asleep in his car in their drive-thru, okay? Holding up traffic and everything, okay? People were getting annoyed because they wanted to get their Wendy's, but there was a car in their way blocking the drive-thru, you know? These people, poor people, they probably had wanted to go to the new Thai restaurant that had just opened, you know, or had finally had its grand opening because it had been delayed by the coronavirus and the pandemic and all that, but then they were afraid that going to a Thai restaurant would be cultural appropriation, especially since they didn't know how they could pull off identifying as Thai, so they said, heck with it, we'll just go through the Wendy's drive-thru. And then you find a car blocking the drive-thru, so you can't even get some unhealthy Wendy's food, like, you know, a good old-fashioned American. So, Wendy's, the management at the Wendy's, call the police. The police come. And they talk to this guy, this Rayshard Brooks. He fails a sobriety test, okay? And so then they try to arrest him. This is when it gets interesting because there is a struggle. Rayshard Brooks steals one of the officers' tasers and starts running. He then turns around, points the taser at one of the officers, and the officer pulls out his piece, his gun, and shoots him dead. The problem, of course, is that Rayshard Brooks happens to be a black man. And so that's why all hell broke loose again. So much so that if you actually go to the Wendy's where all of this went down, you won't find it there anymore, okay? Or at least you'll only find the remains of it because rioters burned it to the ground. And then they said that it is now going to be a memorial to Rayshard Brooks. Take down all the reminders that it was a Wendy's. This hunk of flamed out skeletal structure is going to be a memorial to Rayshard Brooks, a man who was convicted of beating his wife and beating his child. So, you know, that's the sort of guy. He can have a memorial in the heart of Atlanta. Get rid of George Washington, right? Absolutely. This is 2020, people. Get with the program. Child beaters, they get memorials to themselves. The father of our country, throw the bum out. So, what happened after that, what has happened this past week, is that the officer who shot Rayshard Brooks, a man by the name of Officer Garrett Rolfe, he was summarily fired from the police department. The chief of police of Atlanta also resigned immediately after this happened. And the DA of Fulton County, which is where Atlanta is located, has just charged, this past week, has just charged former Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe with felony murder. Okay, he has 11 counts going up against him. He has 11 counts going up against him. Felony murder is one, and aggravated assault, okay, amongst others. The reason being is that the district attorney, a man by the name of Paul Howard, is saying that there was absolutely no reason why Garrett Rolfe had to shoot Rayshard Brooks, just because Brooks pointed the stolen taser at one of the officers, because as Paul Howard says, tasers are not deadly weapons. Problem with that, however, is that tasers are considered deadly weapons under Georgia law. In fact, 2 weeks ago, this same district attorney, Mr. Paul Howard, he pressed charges against 2 other officers in the Atlanta Police Department because during another protest, another riot, ostensibly for George Floyd, the protesters started getting violent. And so these two officers, they were trying to manage these people, and it ended up with one of the officers drawing his taser and pointing it at them and telling them basically to get in line. The district attorney, Mr. Paul Howard, said that was totally unacceptable because tasers are deadly weapons, and there was absolutely no reason to point a deadly weapon at these quote-unquote peaceful protesters. And in 2 weeks' time, a taser that has gone from being a deadly weapon when an officer points it at a protester is now no longer a deadly weapon when a child and wife beater steals it from an officer and points it at him while he's attempting to run away from the police while they're trying to arrest him. That is the same. And for that, let me just point it out. For that, I said that one of the charges against Officer Rolfe, former Officer Rolfe, was felony murder. As Mark Levin was pointing out on Twitter, felony murder, if convicted of felony murder, that potentially carries the death sentence with it. If Garrett Rolfe is actually found guilty of felony murder, he very well could be facing the death penalty. So let us just review this. 2 weeks ago, when an officer points his taser at two rioters who are getting violent, taser isn't a deadly weapon. Officer Rolfe, shoots Rayshard Brooks after Brooks steals and points a taser at him and at his fellow officers. Taser isn't a deadly weapon. So what is and what isn't a deadly weapon now depends on who is pointing it and who the person is pointing it at. This is not the rule of law. This is the rule of man, because DA Paul Howard is simply choosing when and where. He's deciding when tasers are deadly weapons and when they aren't, simply so that he can get what he wants. He wanted to punish the police here when they were trying to keep the protesters civil and legal and peaceful. And then he found that a taser wasn't a deadly weapon when the officers were trying to actually apprehend Rayshard Brooks. If that is the new normal, then we have absolutely no assurances under the law, because the law can be changed on a dime. We don't have the protection of the law. You can't have the protection of the law when you don't even know what the law will say. More than that, the message has been sent out loud and clear that the law will deal with you. The law is no longer blind. We are no longer equal under the law. The law will take into account your skin color and your political affiliations. If you are a black or Hispanic or queer, protester, rioter, looter, doesn't matter, okay? The law will protect you. You can practically get away with burning and looting. You can burn down a Wendy's and it'll be fine. If you do not check off any intersectional boxes, or if you do, but you don't think the right way, if you are only racially black, but not politically black, as Nicole Hannah-Jones has said a few weeks back, then the law will not protect you. Instead of a shield, the law will be a hammer, which will crush you, smash you, make you serve as an example to everyone else. But it gets even better than that, gang, because just today, as of this recording, Friday, June the 19th, Garrett Rolfe's stepmother, Melissa Rolfe, was fired from her job. She was actually the HR director for Equity Prime Mortgage in Atlanta. She was fired because employees said that they were no longer comfortable interacting with her. Apparently, Melissa Rolfe had posted some things on social media, on her Facebook page, perhaps on Twitter. I'm guessing, it was primarily Facebook. And I'm going to guess that it had to do with her stepson And her saying this is completely unjust. I want justice for my stepson like any good mother figure would, right? Especially given what I have just told you all. Now, Equity Prime Mortgage isn't telling us what Melissa Rolfe said on her own Facebook page. It isn't telling us what she said on her social media accounts. All we know is that she put up some things on her social media accounts, and then employees felt uncomfortable interacting with her. And so, out of the blue, she was fired. This is nothing more than a purge game. Melissa Rolfe committed the crime. The crime that Melissa Rolfe committed was defending her family, defending her stepson. Because of that, because she was acting like a mother, because Garrett Rolfe was, fulfilling his duty, his oath of office, and he killed Rayshard Brooks because Brooks was resisting arrest and again stole a taser and pointed it at an officer. He must be punished. And now because his stepmom is actually acting like a mother figure, she must be punished. The only way, who knows, maybe these people even would have been uncomfortable working with her if she hadn't said anything. But because she dared to open her mouth, probably not even on company time, probably in the privacy of her own home, after hours, on her own Facebook page, she has to be punished. I use the word purge deliberately, gang, because that's what it is. Because now, it's not just you who will be punished for committing wrong thing. It's not just you who will be punished for being a quote-unquote racist, simply for having paler skin. No. It won't be you who's the oppressor simply because you think the wrong way. You engage in wrong thing. No, it's your entire family. Unless your entire family rises up and denounces you and burns incense to the new woke gods to show their loyalty to the new system, to the new regime, they will be punished as well. It's not just you now who's on the chopping block. It is everyone you have ever known, everyone who you have ever cared for, everyone you have ever loved. That's where we are today. That is the future that is staring us in the face. And that is the future we are going to have unless we actually fight back. I'm wrapping it up here, gang. Sorry to leave it on a depressing note. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you later. Ciao.